another clip of Facts Only trended on Twitter. You have done it again.
Shout out to Whiskey.
Yeah, so
They have been my friends recently. They don't know that. It's not that. It's never been that. But I wish them all the best. More love, less ego.
Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, so last week, you said Burna Boy twice to store didn't have a hit record.
Yeah.
And this caused quite a stir on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so first of all, what is a hit record?
A hit record is, I believe we've had like separate conversations on this show over the past 2 years, where we've tried to break down what a hit record is. In Nigeria, the conversation got more complex around the lockdown, when we then had like different silos, right? So when certain conversations happen in those silos, a lot of people tend to conflate those things for like hits. Do you understand? Like the popularity of a song on Twitter, for example. But in real life, a lot of people are not listening to the song in real life. A lot of people tend to think those things are hit record, they are not. And sometimes a song is popular on maybe like a TikTok, for example, but it's not translating to success on real-time platforms, on streaming platforms. And even if it translates to streaming platforms, it's probably maybe popular on maybe Apple Music. It's not popular on YouTube and AudioMac, which are like the two most popular streaming apps for Nigerians. Because when you check the numbers, a lot of Nigerians can afford to pay for music. So it's been getting better. It's been getting better. Like subscribers on Apple Music are reportedly in like the 6 figures now, or the 7 figures now, reportedly. So things are getting better, but it's still not as early last year, which was Q1 last year. I think I heard from a reliable source that AudioMac at the time was on like 6-7 figures at the time, compared to maybe like the lower 6 figures that the other premium streaming platforms are doing. So the freemium plan of AudioMac and Boomplay and YouTube, we promote the deference of a lot of Nigerians to those platforms, because they are free. Nigerians love free things. There's consumer behavior tilts towards free things. Some people that can afford to pay don't even want to pay. And a lot of people don't even know that they can pay for music. Like it's cheaper for you to actually stream music. They will say, why am I not streaming on this particular, why am I not downloading on this particular website? And that particular download metric or that download consumer behavior or download bias in terms of consumer behavior is why a platform like, what's the name of this Martin's company, Mdundo, is thriving because of their model. So the idea, what I'm trying to say in essence is, I wanted to buy a suit one time, and a guy said the suit was about 250,000. I'm like, liquid. This Lagos. So I took my stuff and I went to CMS to meet my peoples there, and I bought my jacket. And where I was trying to adjust my pants, people were playing music with AudioMac steady, like on Lagos Island, CMS. That's what everybody there was using. Some people were using Mdundo, some people were using Boomplay, but it was AudioMac mostly because you could actually play audio music there. So you can understand and people are using that, like maybe tailors, handymen, plumbers, people, cleaners, they're using AudioMac. So you understand the penetration of AudioMac from there. So what I'm trying to say in essence here is the definition of a hit record is so complex right now that if a song, so we have like different silos. So we have like airplay silos like TV and radio. We have like the streaming silo, and the streaming silo is even you can break it down into like two sub silos, because the audience of an Apple Music, Spotify, those Spotify has like freemium. A lot of the marketing of Spotify might not exactly reach it down below. So it's a lot of cool kids aspire to like Spotify. But when it comes to like the down below, which is where the streaming platforms actually get to, it's like maybe an AudioMac and YouTube. And one of the reasons why YouTube is popular in Nigeria is because it was the first major streaming platforms, and people can access anything they want on YouTube. For example, a lot of Nigerians want Nollywood on YouTube. So it's like two silos when it comes to DSPs. And you're now looking at social media silos when you're talking about like TikTok. And even in social media silos, you have like two sub-silos, which is like maybe TikTok and everybody else. You understand? Because TikTok consumes a lot of like, in terms of content creation for music promotion, it's TikTok right now. But Instagram has the audience, so a lot of the content that people create sometimes on TikTok, they bring them to Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. But Twitter is especially mostly conversation, so it's different silos. So sometimes you might be trending on TikTok, you probably get to Instagram because of Reels, but you might not get to Twitter because the conversations might not be there. Because you remember when a girl called Gucci was trending on TikTok?
Yeah.
Jennifer, trending on TikTok, got on Reels, got to Facebook, but it didn't particularly come to Twitter in terms of conversation. So a lot of people didn't even know. A lot of people would then go to Audiomack and check her numbers, like 25 million. How? Who is this babe? You understand? So then there's that. And then there's like the mainstream, so like the offline platforms. So like DJs, popularity on the streets. For example, which song was I listening to some days ago that I asked someone if it was a hit? Which song was that? Which song was that? Which song was that? Ooh, there was a particular song that I asked someone. It was two songs. One of those songs was DJ Consequence and Yaba Buluku Boys. I mean, if you were to list the top 10 Nigerian songs of last year or this year, the song is not there.
Yeah.
But in terms of staying power over the past, if you combine like Q3, Q4 Nigeria, then till now, especially in club circuits, party circuits, that's like a top 5 Nigerian song. Does that make sense? Maybe not top 5, but a top 10 Nigerian song. But in essence of like what you might consider the biggest Nigerian song, it's not there.
Visibility.
So exactly. So there's like the offline approach, offline platforms like clubs, DJ sets, all these other platforms where you would want to. There are no metrics to actually rate those things. Some people have tried in the past to like maybe install like facilities, maybe like jump on the facilities or the equipment or the network for GPS to actually be able to track what people are listening to, like in their homes, when they're going on radio, when they're in the clubs, to track the rate at which people respond. People are demanding for certain types of songs. So there's also that silo. Usually when a song is going to be a hit, it has to be a hit across all those silos. Like for example, an Ashake, for example, everywhere. You can't, all of Ashake's songs, even till Joha, and even Organized that has not been pushed as a focus track, as one of the focus tracks, it's already a hit across all those silos. Because if you play Organized anywhere, either it's online, either it's in digital, either it's in streaming sub-silos, airplay sub-silos, wherever
Shopping
else,
mall, anywhere.
everywhere, it's a hit record. But there are some records that are basically like digital hits, like across all the digital platforms, so like social media and streaming platforms, they are very popular there. But when it comes to offline airplay, even airplay sometimes they might have some reps. But when it comes to offline, where it might really matter if you are really successful, because a lot of Nigerians are still not digital natives. What's the internet penetration in Nigeria? Under 35%. What's the global benchmark? About 64%. 34% of Nigeria is not exactly low numbers. But many people are coming to the internet regularly to consume data and to use data. How many of them can actually buy data a lot of times actually? What's the penetration of smartphones in Nigeria? Do you understand? What's the penetration of all these phones? How many people can afford to buy these things? Like Nigerians are very aspirational. But when you look at it, iPhones, for example, less than 5% of Nigeria uses iPhones. Do you understand? So it's very low numbers. So at the end of the day, a lot of songs can be hits in like one or two silos, and it can like warp conversations in their favor, right? So a lot of people tend to say, oh, it's a hit. Maybe not essentially. Maybe not essentially. And then there are songs that are, because they are from big artists, they look like they are successful across all those silos, but essentially they are not. Maybe like a Whiskey's True Love, for example. Whiskey's True Love, if you were to perform it at a show, everybody there will be singing it along. In a show of 17,000 people, they'll sing along because it's one of the bigger songs or the biggest songs from Middle Lagos. And it's probably going to offline because Whiskey has a lot of fans. It's probably going to be big. But when you go to like the depths of the mainstream in terms of like maybe clubs or thereabouts, a lot of people might not be familiar with the song as they're familiar with maybe a Ginger, for example. Do you understand? So these conversations are very, very nuanced. A True Love is going to have the semblance of a hit. Was it essentially a hit? Probably not. It's probably it's a culture, it's a fan favorite amongst it's a cult hit, it's a cult favorite. Because of that, because the fan base is so big and because the artist is so big, it's going to have number one numbers. Because if Wizkid were to be silent on the track, I've said it several times here that there's no way he's not going to have numbers. Because one, he's a huge artist. Algorithms recognize his name. If Wizkid were to release a song today, because you consume a lot of music content, YouTube is going to push it to you. Because you consume a lot of music content, cookies are following you around, TikTok is going to push it to you. Do you understand? If this guy is signed to a major, most of the streaming platforms want to be in the good books of majors, including all the social media platforms. They want to be in the good books because those are the guys that own the catalog. Number 3, algorithms on these platforms also pick up their names because streaming platforms also want to push successful stories. So that's why if Whiskey drops, it's going to be on playlists, bro. It's going to be on all those, and accumulation of these playlists is what's going to become numbers. So it's impossible. It's literally impossible for someone like Wiz Davido. Look at Tiwa Savage's songs, for example. A lot of people are going to tell you that, oh, Tiwa Savage has not had the grace, whatever. But the song, let's say if it's because of Ashake, 1 million views in a day, I believe. I believe he hit 1 million views in a day. I don't think any of okay, maybe I think Ashake's, 1 or 2 Ashake songs have been that in the past, but still, it's still 1 million views in a day. It's because Tiwa Savage and Ashake, 2 superstar names collaborating on the song. It's what it is. So conversations like that, people need to tend to understand what is a popular song and what's a hit song, usually.
So what's the difference between a popular record and a hit?
A popular record would be a record that already has significant audience and significant penetration, but doesn't have the defined audience and penetration of a hit. So a popular record usually comes with leverage, or maybe has a lot of potential. So for example, when people were making, before we get there, if a superstar artist already has audience that numbers in the millions, and Taylor Swift released Midnight like 2 weeks ago, and top 10 songs from Taylor Swift's album were like in the top 10. Like Taylor Swift was literally Billboard Hot 100 for the week. Taylor Swift number 1 to 10.
Yeah.
What's that reason? Because number 1, Taylor Swift has an audience. She already has a lot of fans, and because significantly, what determines like the success of music these days is because streaming saved the music industry. I believe last year, it was 60-something% of the revenue from the music industry from streaming. Global music industry direct music revenue was from streaming. So it shows you that streaming defines a lot of things right now. So in essence, Taylor Swift already has like that fan base, that leverage to begin with, and then that means the label already is, and she has a track record of success, so the money and the budget that would have gone into her rollout would have been significant. And even without the money going into there, the moment Taylor Swift announced that she's going to release an album, there's already like noise. Now imagine putting marketing budgets on that. And then number 3, algorithms understand who Taylor Swift is. So there is no way Taylor Swift is going to release an album, especially in the first week, that's not going to have great numbers. Do you understand? So essentially for top artists, the eye test usually is one of the reasons. Logical eye test, not from stars. Stars are not logical. They can't process. A lot of them are not even smart. They don't understand nuances of the music industry. A lot of them that are even providing counter arguments are not equally not very smart people. It's just people that want to bring the other person down, who appears to be a rival to their field. So you can't exactly trust whatever they are saying. So what I'm saying in essence here is, there's no way for Whiskey to release music in the first week, and there's always be a conversation on social media. There's no way people are going to play it on radio. There's no way some of these things are not going to happen. But there is a reason why a lot of Nigerians would agree that Mood was the biggest hit from Made in Lagos, both the deluxe and it's not going to be Essence. In Nigeria, what I mean? In Nigeria. Because, what do you think? Do you agree?
Yeah, in terms of street popularity,
in terms of street
Mood
popularity,
and Anotti
exactly,
are more popular
than Essence on the streets because of a bunch of things. But a lot of stars would never agree with you when you say Mood and Anotti are essentially bigger than Essence because they can't process the reality. The moment they see it on Billboard Hot 100, they think this is the same situation in Nigeria. Just like if you were going to say like CK's Love Once, wasn't exactly one of the top 20 Nigerian songs of last year.
Yes.
A lot of people are going to think, oh, you are hating. No, we are not hating. The song blew up in the past in Nigeria. Nigerians had moved on before the song started blowing up in the world. Now, he had another run in Nigeria, but it wasn't big enough to get to that level. Now, at that time, it became a popular song, not exactly a hit. Do you understand?
Yeah.
True Love is a popular song, not exactly a hit. It's a very popular song, not exactly a hit. But Mood, that's a hit record. And Anotti might not be a hit because there are no significant ways to actually track. There are no significant metrics to track it. But if you go into the streets and they play that's why the fact that the record didn't exactly get a marketing push. It doesn't have a video, if I'm correct. It doesn't have a video. And also doesn't have a video.
No, it doesn't.
But what does the success of the song tell you? The song is actually incredible. Or maybe a song like Focus Track or anything that DJ YK Mule produces. Those records don't have significant budgets. But guess what? They don't even have videos half the time.
Yeah.
But check their numbers. Ridiculous. Do you understand? Yeah. So it's not about the status of the artist. You have to employ nuance when you're looking at all those things, because it's unlikely that an artist is going to release something that doesn't have numbers. But when you're looking at a hit record, it's usually across those silos, current high numbers across the silos and the sub-silos, not just one silo, not just with the fans, not just with the person's primary fan base. It's across all silos and it's sustained. It's sustained. One of the ways to know that the song is not exactly charting high is because, and it's not exactly the success that a lot of people think it is, because how did a song gets into number one, we said it last week, a song gets into number one doesn't need a hit record. Yeah. It can fall off the next week, right? And sometimes people are going to go to YouTube and bring out numbers from YouTube in the sense of trying to present points that the song is a hit. Maybe not sometimes, because there are YouTube ads right now on, and the quality of the video sometimes, and the storytelling of the video can make the song big. So what are the numbers across, what's the numbers on, what are the numbers on Audiomack? What are the numbers on Apple Music? What are the numbers on Spotify? So these are the ways to actually be able to present a cogent conversation. Now, sometimes though, the human mind tends to discredit some songs. Just because a song was not a top 10 song, it's not a contender for a top 10 song in a country in a year, doesn't mean it's not a hit record. Does that make sense? Yeah. Sometimes a song might not be a contender for a top 10, but it can be a hit record. In some cases, it's not the same. But we need to be able to understand the differences and the nuances of those things.
Yeah, so speaking of fans now, why do fans think everything their favorite artist drop is automatically a hit?
Because a lot of fans are worshippers. Stan culture, we've done like several episodes on this show. Stan culture is like a religion. It's like a religion with fascist and authoritarian tendencies. And the rules are basically subconsciously created by the operators of those stand bases. So essentially the stands. And what determines some of the aggression of the authoritarian tendencies is the fact that they think stardom is a competition. I mean, it's not exactly untrue that it's a competition, but it's not exactly to the death type of competition that they want to do. So the moment they agree that they are fave, and to them, their fave can't do no wrong. Whatever it does is it's a hit, it's fire. They do not jam anything. Even if the album is bumbling trash, they will tell you that it's the greatest thing ever. Because number one, they are not wired to process the fact. They are not wired to process the fact that it's not good. Do you understand? That's why on TikTok these days, people make fun of like Whiskey FC and all of them. Maybe someone plays 1 second and shows that, oh my God. Do you understand? Goes up on Twitter. Do you understand? Because that's who they are. They can't get there. And a lot of them are also young. They can't process the differences. And sometimes we also have to realize that only a few people enjoy music and try to logically break down what they are listening to. A lot of fans are not able to do that, talk less of stans. Stans can't process it. Like, they are invested in the person, and they feel like they're so invested in the person and the person's story that they feel like talking down on the person is bringing the person, like criticizing and saying something the person does is not good, is bringing the person down. And now compared to like, especially when their rivals are doing well, if the person's rivals are doing well, they don't want to look like their fave is not doing well because they're going to feel like, these guys are going to win. It's not exactly a competition, but to them, they can't process that. So, and then they will go and bring out all the stats. You don't know fucking stats. Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, someone tagged me on something, Burna Boy, something in Uganda, in something on Apple Music. I looked at it, I wanted to reply. But these days, I've been calm. I've been calm. I looked at it and you don't know what you're talking about. Just shut up. Just shut up. It's not hard. Just shut up. Like, even Burna Boy knows that what I'm saying is the truth. Because the direction of that album was totally different. It was totally different. It wasn't an album that was created for. We'll get there later. So a lot of them can't process that reality. Yeah. And when that happens, eventually, they tend to praise everything and blow it out of proportion. And when you support a superstar artist, you tend to find a lot of validation for that. Yeah. Because you find numbers, you find social media conversation, you find hashtags that you can track, you find all these things. But at the end of the day, the people that determine what is a hit is logical people. Logical people. Logical people, not stars.
Okay, so does it matter these days though if a popular artist album doesn't have a hit record?
No, it doesn't.
Why not?
It doesn't because the metrics for success for an artist these days, or for artists these days, is revenue generation. Is money. That's why, I mean, critical acclaim is still very important because when an album is not good, regardless of the noise that it's making and the money that it's again, a superstar artist album is unlikely to not make money. It's going to make money.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, the way you process a superstar artist, the way you can judge if a superstar artist album is a failure is a failure to the label. The label is the determinant of whether it's a failure or not. It's how quickly the label moves on from it. Yeah. It's how quickly the label moves on. Because a lot of marketing budget goes into an album. A lot of rollout, a lot of preparation, clearance, like you clear samples, you clear all these things. And the moment it feels like you are hemorrhaging more cash than you're making, that you're going to make in the long run, or maybe you feel like we spend 25% of what we are, they do projections. So maybe let's say we're likely to make 500 million from, no, unlikely. We're likely to make maybe 70 million from this album. And the budget that we're going to spend is like 15 million. The moment they are exceeding that, the money, maybe they also set it down, maybe first quarter, second quarter. Maybe the moment the album is not meeting the targets or their projection for quarterly earnings, it's not working. It doesn't mean that it's not making more than the marketing budget. It might be, but it's just that, bro, it's not hitting the benchmark because they have like projections. For example, there are certain artists on particular labels that are cash cows. They're cash cows of labels. They are not dogs, they are cash cows. They make more money than everybody else. So the label has a quota that the artist is going to contribute to their revenue, gross revenue for a year, or let's say net revenue. So, and they have presented those things to like partners in like meetings at the start of the year. The moment that thing is not getting there, it means they're going to be spending more money to make more money because now they're going to be shooting videos, they're going to be doing all these things, and it's decreasing the projections at the end of the year. The moment that starts to happen, they move on. So, which brings me back to this question. For an artist, it's very possible that the album is making money, but critical acclaim might not exactly have the same power that it used to have. I mean, it still does, because a lot of people, critical acclaim can determine how people perceive music. Yeah. It can determine how people receive the music. That's why a lot of people still look forward to reviews. People are going to tell you that, oh, your reviews don't matter. But when I check the backend on this, when I check backend on Google Analytics, it's telling me different things. People are checking out for it. So what I'm saying in essence here is, it's not exactly necessary for an album to have hit records anymore. And the major album that shows us, and even it's not even for superstar artists, it doesn't matter if they have hit records before they release the album. In the past, it used to be very necessary as part of the rollout. You want the song to have you want the album to have a hit record before you release it, so that people know people have something to look forward to on the album. They are expecting more hit records from the album, especially when you're popular. But now, you have numbers anyway, people are listening to the song. So you release the album and the album makes sense. So it doesn't matter. What matters now is the amount of money that people make. But, you also don't want to build a career of subpar albums. Does that make sense? Yeah. You don't want to build a career of subpar albums that are moonlighting, that are gleaning what looks like success. Because look at it this way. You can get away with it on the first album. Like an album that maybe it's not particularly good. It's not particularly good. It's not particularly it doesn't have a hit record. Sometimes the hit record is the reason why people keep coming back to the album, because the more a song is blowing up, people are going to go check the body or work out. Look at CK's EP, CK the First. Love Vanity blew up, TK the First started blowing up. Do you understand? Yeah. A hit record can be that powerful to make more people go check out your music. So what I'm saying in essence is, you can see Taylor Swift and Drake, every time they release new albums, they are successful because they are successful artists. Their numbers increase. Not just because the streaming platforms, more people are using streaming platforms, but also because they are acquiring new fans. So the benchmark for an artist for successful album sometimes is you're acquiring new fans because your hit records gets to places where your album might not be able to get to. So people want to come and check out your music. For example, Essence made people go to check out Thames. Now, there was a lot of budget, it was a heavy budget on Freeman, for example, but people still went to check the music out. It's probably informed the reason why they put a budget on it because the music was taken off by itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you don't want to create a career of, oh, my album is making money, I don't need a hit record. It doesn't matter because you're going to be conscripted to the same fans. Now, the problem here is the more noise an album makes because it's quality, the more likely that you're going to get new fans. Now, if an artist's album is not good, the conversations on it are going to be limited.
To the fans.
It's going to be limited to the fans. And sometimes, even the fans, when they shout to a level and they see that other people are not making noise about it, the noise is going to be reduced. Your next album is the same thing. Naturally, your fans, new artists are cropping up. Your fans are going to be listening to those people. When the new artist's music has more hits, has more conversations, they are going to be leaving you. So you don't want to build a career out of that. That's why Drake, for example, released Certified Lover Boy.
So that it
Wasn't exactly, it didn't work. Released Honestly Nevermind. So that it didn't work. He knew you can't do a third one that goes like that.
Yeah. Tapped 21.
You need to make it. It must have hits, it must be good, you must be able to get conversations going. All those. Do you understand?
Yeah.
It's very important.
Yeah.
That's the importance.
So now, how do we measure all successful albums these days?
By the actions of the label or the companies that owns rights to the album. So that's the label services or whatever. Number one, how much money are they willing to keep pouring into the album based on their projections? How many songs are they willing to service? How many songs are they willing to focus on? That's number two. Number three, sometimes a hit record doesn't mean an album is doing well. Sometimes it happens like that. Sometimes, like look at Megan Thee Stallion. Possibly the most marketed artists in the world over the past 5 years. Yes. But every time she releases albums, absolutely nonsense numbers. Like, good news, first week, just over 100,000. Traumazine, 64,000 in first week sales, bro. That is rubbish. But do those albums have hits? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's about understanding, again, nuances. A lot of people can process nuances. A lot of people will tell you that, oh, Megan Thee Stallion's album doesn't have a hit record because the numbers are bad. No, that's not true. People need to be able to argue with nuances, understand nuances, be able to get into the facts of the albums. So that, how much money is the album making? As against the marketing budget, and which is important, as against the projections of the label. How much money is it making? People need to be able to understand how some of these things work. But sometimes, some albums are not exactly made for. Some artists are not big streaming artists. So how do you then, for example, Brimo, for example, it's probably not going to be. It's probably not going to do. It's definitely not going to do like Whiskey numbers. Maybe not even Chicken numbers, right? But how do you then justify that his albums are successful? Because I can go to a Brimo show 3 days after Brimo releases an album, and everybody and his fans are singing the music word for word. That's another way to know, because you have to also understand the artist, understand the audience. What determines success for the label? Like, what are the markers for success for the label? So when you understand those things, you can now present it here.
Okay. So coming back to Burna Boy.
Yeah.
So why do you think the album That's Twice as Tough didn't have a hit record?
Because the album wasn't created for a hit. Simple as, it's not very hard to process. The album was not, obviously, would have been hoping that the album would make hits. Like, maybe not in Nigeria, obviously. But you could also see that. So what I think happened Twice as tall. Not what I think. They were trying to combine like Grammy potential with like songs that can be beautiful on the streets. But when the music started taking off, the album, so sometimes the quality of an album can be so good and it's you don't even need to do a lot of marketing for the conversations around the album because word is going to spread around that this album is good and people are going to keep listening to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like word is going to spread around about the quality of the album and everybody's going to want to listen to the album. So it got to a level where the numbers on the album were so good, they'll push singles. The singles might not fly as much as they would hope they would. And when it comes down to it, these people are going to look at it and say, it doesn't matter because why are we stressing ourselves? They created that album to be a successful body of work. And in this streaming era, if you can make a really good body of work, even without a hugely successful single, a song that is sometimes good songs are not good enough to be hits. What determines the quality of a hit is how will you marketing the songs? Not sometimes, most of the time. What determines the success of a song is how good you're marketing the song. Because I knew a lot of songs that I couldn't stand when I heard them. But bro, like everybody you ask, if you ask 10 people in this room like this, that do they like Booga, 7 people will probably say they don't.
Yeah.
But guess what? It's possibly the biggest Nigerian song of the year.
Yeah.
Because number one, the music is sticky in different parts and the marketing budget is so healthy. So bro, it's what it is, right? So coming back to this conversation about like Burna Boy, the album was not curated for hits. It was curated to be a successful album that could take Burna Boy to help Burna Boy become an experiential artist. It was curated to help Burna Boy become a better live artist, which is where a lot of his money is coming from right now. Because it's selling our arenas. Because the album is so good, people know what they're getting into, and the music is suited to live performances. Waiting, man, go to you, waiting. Like, I mean, was that no
That was an African Giant.
No feedback.
Vex 23.
Do you understand? 23. Like, and when you look at the structure of the entire album, there was not a standout hit single on the album.
Yeah.
Single was a song. When you sit down and actually process what an album is, it will be very hard to pick out songs that could have been singles from the album. Maybe bank on it. I mean, I'll be thunder like Moody.
That's way too big.
Way too big. Maybe way too big. But when you think about it, maybe not. The one record that you could have maybe said could have been a hit was maybe An Alarm Clock. But, bro, it didn't have the factors of like a hit record in different places. So, the person that curated it knows that the album doesn't have a hit record anywhere.
Okay.
And it affected the singles released after. Question.
Yeah. Even Kilometer. Yeah.
Really good songs. I actually thought Question was going to enter. And Ballon d'Or with a song with Whiskey, it did not enter.
Not until Allstars.
Because people had already started experiencing Burna Boy was a victim of his own success. They want albums. They want to listen to him on albums, not exactly singles. Yeah. So that's why an album like Love That Many makes sense because now there are more single-worthy songs here and there.
So now, what carried the album?
Ooh, the quality, bro. That's one of the best Nigerian albums ever. When we are creating this like 50 to 100 years, I think that album will probably, even though African Giant is Burna Boy's opus, right? In terms of like the quality, but African Giant also had the benefit of hit records. Twice as Tall did it. Yeah. But a lot of people, including you, will probably say Twice as Tall is a better album.
It's by far a better album.
Exactly. And I can't argue against that. I don't agree.
Yeah, you told me before.
But I can't argue it because I can see where you're coming from. It was just a very, very well curated experience.
Yes.
So what carried the album? The quality. And the fact that Burna Boy is an exceptional musician. He made an album that for the ages where he sacrificed all the hits in the world and he still made an album that everybody could listen to and we cannot agree. This one will be Chere Kambia. All of us can agree that this is a fantastic album. And again, bottom-up approach. The conversation went from here, outside, and everybody's like, when an album is good, you don't need to force the conversations. Don't worry, it's not about one song. Everybody was experiencing the songs, and that's why Burna Boy can perform a 3-hour set.
Yeah.
You can perform a 4-hour set.
Perform Oyeka at the Grammys.
Do you understand? You can perform you can perform a 5-hour set, and it's not going to get tired because people actually listen to his albums. Simple.
Okay. So now when you look through the album,
Yeah.
what songs would you say could have been a hit?
Like I said, maybe an alarm clock. I thought No Fit Vex maybe. Life for no reason. I think No Fit Vex is possibly was possibly the most viable song for a hit. But the fact that it didn't push it says a lot. They were not worried about this market.
Yeah.
They were not worried about this market.
Yeah.
If the album was not curated, it was curated for us, but it wasn't exactly created for us. Monsters we made possibly, maybe in like in the UK market, but I felt like number one, it was too. Again, it was curated for the Grammy.
Yes.
So the way they rushed it out, it was meant to satisfy that purpose. It was meant to satisfy that purpose, not anything else. Like for example, the video for that song should have been better.
Yeah.
If they had been patient, the video should have been better. But it was meant to satisfy a purpose, and it satisfied the purpose.
Perfectly.
Simple.
Perfectly.
Maybe my Monsters we made could have been if it got the healthy marketing budget. But to be honest, maybe it wasn't moving as it should, and they couldn't put marketing budget behind it. I thought 23 could have been. 23 was popular enough, was successful enough, but again.
Okay. So finally, how great do you think Twice Stories?
Bro, I think that's one of my second best album. A lot of people say Outside Life, no. I think it's very close. The more I listen to it, I think the closer I think it is to African Giant. I think it's such a. I still think African Giant is the opus. I think African Giant was just on another level. Was just ridiculous. How I know the way I know an album is experiential is when I'm writing the review for the album. There's a way your brain opens up when you're listening to an experiential album. You are seeing like the nuances. You are seeing things that a lot of people might not be able to see. You are breaking. Your brain is trying to understand a lot of things that are going on. That's how you can see the way an album is curated. And when I listen to Twice as Store, someone told me recently. I met the person in South Africa, and the person was telling me that I read your review for Twice as Store, and it was incredible. And I said, the last 3 reviews I've written for Burna Boy albums are like that because the albums have a way of just opening your mind, especially African Giant and Twice as Store. So what I'm saying in essence here is that album was just incredible. And I think, like I said, in 50 years, when people are curating like a list of the greatest Afrobeats albums, I think it's probably going to be a top 15. Maybe depending on how it ages, because you never know. A song like Under the Influence is coming back 2 years later. Monsters you made might make it come back. You just don't know, bro. Maybe Atlantic might wake up next year and say, bro, that song is taking off on TikTok.
Let's do something.
Put some money behind it. You just don't know. So by that time, the conversations will be different, and that's facts.